A love that defied expectations. Maple Ridge was the kind of town where time seemed to stand still. White picket fences lined the streets, church bells chimed on Sundays, and everyone knew not only your name, but also your family history. Emily Carter had lived in this picturesque town her entire life, raised by parents who placed immense value on appearances, tradition, and maintaining their elite social status. Her father, William Carter, was a prominent businessman, while her mother, Margaret, was the quintessential socialite, hosting charity events and tea parties with military precision. From the moment Emily could walk, her future was meticulously planned. Private schooling, summers in Europe, and eventually marrying a man who would elevate the Carter family name even further. Love was never part of the equation. Compatibility and social standing mattered more. But love, unpredictable and wild, had a way of disrupting even the most carefully laid plans. Emily first met James Walker during an ordinary afternoon at the community library. The scent of old books mingled with the faint aroma of freshly brewed coffee from the cafe next door. Emily was engrossed in organizing a shelf of history books when she heard a warm, deep voice behind her. "Need a hand with that?" Startled, she turned to see a tall man with dark skin, curly hair, and an easy smile. His hands were stained with specks of paint, a testament to his creative pursuits. "I've got it, but thanks," Emily said, brushing a strand of blonde hair behind her ear. "I'm James," he introduced himself, extending a hand. Emily. Their connection was instant, like two puzzle pieces finally finding their match. They spent the afternoon talking about everything from literature to art, discovering shared dreams and ambitions. James had moved to Maple Ridge from the city, seeking inspiration for his paintings. Despite his humble lifestyle, his passion for art and life was infectious. Emily found herself drawn to his authenticity. He was unlike anyone she had ever met, real, unpretentious, and unapologetically himself. Whispers and judgment. Their budding relationship didn't go unnoticed. Maple Ridge thrived on gossip, and it wasn't long before whispers began circulating. Emily Carter with that painter. Mrs. Whittaker, the town's self-appointed gossip queen, exclaimed at the local cafe. "He's got no money and no pedigree. It's just a phase," another woman said dismissively. "She'll come to her senses." Emily's parents were the most vocal in their disapproval. "James Walker is not suitable for you, Emily," her father declared one evening over dinner. "He's a man with no future." Margaret Carter chimed in, her tone sharp. "Do you know what people are saying about us? You're embarrassing this family." Emily's hands trembled, but she met their gaze with defiance. "James makes me happy. Isn't that what matters?" "No," William said coldly. "What matters is stability, reputation, and security." Despite the mounting pressure, Emily refused to walk away from James. Their love, though unconventional, was strong enough to withstand the judgment of others, a decision that changed everything. One crisp autumn afternoon, James and Emily stood by the lake just outside town. The water sparkled under the golden light, and the leaves painted the landscape in hues of red and orange. "I can't keep living like this," Emily confessed, her voice heavy with emotion. "My parents will never accept us." "Then let's make it official," James said, his eyes unwavering. "What do you mean?" "Marry me." The words hung in the air, bold and audacious. Emily's heart raced, torn between the life she was expected to live and the life she wanted. "Yes," she whispered, her voice trembling but resolute. They eloped quietly, exchanging vows at a small courthouse ceremony. Emily wore a simple white dress she had bought with her savings, while James donned a crisp white shirt and navy blazer. There were no grand floral arrangements or lavish receptions, just two souls promising to stand by each other, come what may. As they stepped out of the courthouse, the autumn breeze rustled through the trees, carrying with it a sense of newfound freedom. "We did it," Emily whispered, squeezing James's hand. James's warm brown eyes crinkled at the corners as he smiled down at her. "We sure did, Mrs. Walker." Their happiness, however, was shadowed by the weight of what awaited them back in Maple Ridge. Facing the storm. News of their marriage spread through town like wildfire. The townsfolk, already critical of their relationship, were now relentless in their mockery. She married him. Unbelievable. Mrs. Whittaker scoffed. Poor girl doesn't know what she's gotten herself into. Another woman added. Emily's parents were devastated. Margaret refused to speak to her daughter, while William's disappointment was palpable. You've thrown your life away, he said bitterly during their last conversation. Don't come crawling back when it all falls apart. Despite the harsh words, Emily stood her ground. She knew that love was worth fighting for, even if it meant facing the disdain of her family and community. James was her anchor, always reminding her of their dreams. They don't define us, he said one evening as they sat on the porch of their modest home. We'll build our future, one step at a time. Emily nodded, determination flickering in her eyes. Together. And so, hand in hand, they braced themselves for the journey ahead. One filled with challenges, but also the promise of a love that could withstand anything. Trials of love and determination. Life after marriage was nothing like the fairy tales Emily had once imagined as a young girl. There were no grand mansions or lavish dinner parties, only the creak of old wooden floors in their modest little home on the outskirts of town. The house, though humble, was filled with warmth, pictures of the couple laughing during road trips, hand-painted murals James had crafted on the walls, and the aroma of simple home-cooked meals. But warmth didn't pay the bills, and love alone wasn't enough to fend off the harsh realities of life. Struggling to stay afloat. The early days of their marriage were marked by financial hardship. Emily, who had never worked a day in her life before meeting James, quickly learned the value of hard labor. She found a job as a waitress at Rosie's Diner, a small but bustling eatery known for its greasy burgers and endless refills of coffee. The hours were long, the pay meager, and the patrons often rude. Yet, Emily greeted each day with determination, knowing that every dollar she earned contributed to their dream of a better future. James, on the other hand, spent his days painting and his nights driving delivery trucks to make ends meet. Despite his talent, selling art in a small town like Maple Ridge was nearly impossible. The gallery owners in the city weren't interested in unknowns, and the townsfolk still viewed him with suspicion. "You're wasting your time on those paintings," one neighbor scoffed as James hauled canvases into their home. "Get a real job." James clenched his jaw but remained silent. He had heard it all before. The subtle jabs about his skin color, the dismissive remarks about his profession. But James knew better than to let bitterness take root in his heart. "I paint because I believe in beauty, even when the world refuses to see it," he told Emily one evening as they sat on their porch, watching the sun dip below the horizon. "And I believe in you," Emily said softly, resting her head on his shoulder. Whispers and cold stares. Maple Ridge was slow to forget, and even slower to forgive. The gossip about Emily's fall from grace persisted. She could have had any man she wanted, and she chose him. Mrs. Whittaker sneered at the farmer's market. "Such a waste," another woman chimed in. Emily held her head high, refusing to let their words break her spirit. But there were moments, late at night when the world was quiet, that doubt crept in. "Do you ever think we made a mistake?" she whispered to James one evening, her voice barely audible. James turned to her, his expression firm but gentle. "Never. Love isn't a mistake, Emily. It's the only thing that's real in this world." His words fortified her resolve. They had chosen each other, and that was something worth fighting for. A spark of hope. One crisp autumn morning, while cleaning the small studio James had set up in their living room, Emily stumbled upon a half-finished painting. The canvas depicted a powerful scene. Two hands intertwined, one pale and the other dark, surrounded by vibrant colors that seemed to dance off the canvas. "This is incredible," she breathed, running her fingers lightly over the dried paint. James shrugged modestly. It's just something I've been working on. You have to show this to people, Emily insisted. James hesitated. I don't know, Em. The last gallery turned me down without even looking at my work. Then we'll find another way, Emily declared, determination shining in her eyes. That evening, they brainstormed ways to share James's art with the world. Emily suggested setting up a booth at the upcoming Maple Ridge Fall Festival, a popular event that drew crowds from neighboring towns. It's worth a shot, James agreed, though skepticism lingered in his voice. Facing the crowd, the day of the festival arrived, and James's booth stood modestly among rows of vendors selling homemade crafts and local produce. His paintings, vibrant and full of emotion, contrasted starkly with the more conventional offerings around them. Emily busied herself arranging the canvases while James nervously adjusted his display. As the festival began, curious onlookers wandered past, some pausing briefly before moving on. Hours passed with little interest. Emily's heart sank, but she refused to give up. Then, just as James was considering packing up, a woman in a wide-brimmed hat approached. She studied the paintings intently, her fingers tracing the air above the canvas. "These are remarkable," she said, her voice filled with genuine admiration. "Thank you," James said, surprised by the compliment. "I run a gallery in the city," she continued. "I'd love to feature your work." Emily's breath caught in her throat. James blinked, as if unsure whether he had heard her correctly. "You're serious?" he asked cautiously. "Absolutely. Here's my card," the woman said, handing it to him. "Give me a call, and we'll set up a meeting." As she walked away, Emily turned to James, her eyes shining with hope. "This is it," she whispered. James smiled, a flicker of renewed confidence lighting up his face. "Yeah, maybe it is." A turning point. The opportunity with the gallery marked a turning point for James and Emily. His paintings were showcased in a city exhibit, drawing attention from art enthusiasts and critics alike. Sales began trickling in, and commissions followed. Back in Maple Ridge, the whispers shifted. "Did you hear about James Walker? His work is in a gallery in the city. Maybe we were wrong about him after all." Emily and James didn't dwell on the change in perception. Their focus remained on building a life rooted in love, creativity, and resilience. But this was only the beginning of their journey, a journey that would take them to places they had only dreamed of, proving that love, when nurtured with determination, could defy even the harshest odds. Rising above the shadows. Success didn't come overnight, but once it began, it was relentless, like a river breaking through a dam. James's paintings, once overlooked by gallery owners and dismissed by small-town critics, now graced the walls of prestigious art spaces in the city. His work spoke of resilience, unity, and beauty in diversity, messages that resonated deeply with collectors and art enthusiasts alike. Emily watched in awe as James's talent flourished, each brushstroke capturing emotions words couldn't fully express. But despite their newfound recognition, they remained humble, anchored by the lessons hardship had taught them. Yet, Maple Ridge wasn't a place that easily forgot its biases. A town divided. One chilly afternoon, Emily walked into Rosie's diner during her lunch break. The familiar bell above the door jingled as she made her way to the counter. Conversations buzzed around her, but as she sat down, she couldn't help but catch snippets of a particular discussion at a nearby table. "Did you hear about James Walker's exhibit in the city?" one woman said, her tone begrudging. "Yeah, who would have thought he'd amount to anything?" another added. "But let's be real, he's still not one of us." Emily clenched her fists under the counter. Their words stung, not because they were unexpected, but because they reminded her that prejudice often lingered even in the face of undeniable success. Rosie, the diner's kind-hearted owner, noticed Emily's tense expression. "Don't mind them, sweetheart," she said, pouring Emily a fresh cup of coffee. "Small minds can't see beyond their own little world." Emily smiled faintly. "Thanks, Rosie. I just wish people would judge him by his heart and talent, not his skin color." Rosie nodded solemnly. "Change takes time, but you two are already making waves. Keep going, building a legacy." As James's career blossomed, he and Emily decided to give back to the community that had both challenged and shaped them. They organized free art workshops for local children, hoping to inspire the next generation to dream beyond societal expectations. One Saturday morning, the old town hall was filled with the laughter and chatter of children splattering paint on canvases. James moved from table to table, offering guidance and encouragement. A young boy with curly hair and wide eyes tugged on his sleeve. "Mr. Walker, do you think I can be an artist like you someday?" James crouched down to the boy's level. "You can be anything you want, as long as you believe in yourself and never give up." Emily, watching from across the room, felt a swell of pride. They had turned their struggles into something meaningful, planting seeds of hope in a town that desperately needed it. A surprise visitor. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm golden glow over their front porch, a familiar figure appeared at the gate. Emily's breath caught in her throat as she recognized her father, William Carter, dressed impeccably as always, but with an unfamiliar weariness in his eyes. "Dad," she called out, stepping down from the porch. William cleared his throat, his usual stern demeanor softened by something she couldn't quite place. "Emily," he began, his voice hesitant, "I was in town and thought I'd drop by." Emily's heart raced. It had been years since her father had spoken to her without judgment or disdain. "Come in," she offered, leading him to the porch where James was already standing, his expression calm but wary. "Mr. Carter," James greeted politely. William nodded stiffly. "James." They sat in awkward silence for a moment before William spoke again. "I've been hearing about your success. The gallery exhibitions, the workshops. It's impressive." "Thank you," James said simply. William shifted uncomfortably. "I'll admit, I was wrong about you. About both of you." Emily's eyes widened. Her father was not a man who admitted fault easily. "I was too focused on appearances and expectations," William continued. "But seeing what you've built together, it's clear I underestimated you." Tears pricked Emily's eyes. "Dad, all we ever wanted was your support." William's voice broke slightly. "And you have it now, for whatever it's worth." James extended his hand. "Thank you, Mr. Carter. That means a lot." William shook his hand firmly, a tentative bridge forming between them. A community transformed. Word of William Carter's reconciliation with his daughter and James spread through Maple Ridge, sparking a gradual shift in the town's attitude. Those who had once mocked Emily for marrying James now saw the strength of their bond and the positive impact they had made on the community. At the next fall festival, James's booth wasn't just a modest setup, it was the main attraction, with people eager to see his latest creations. Emily stood proudly by his side, their journey etched in every brushstroke and smile shared. As the festival buzzed around them, Mrs. Whittaker, who had been one of their harshest critics, approached hesitantly. "These are beautiful," she admitted grudgingly, gesturing to the paintings. "Thank you," James said graciously. Mrs. Whittaker sighed. "I was wrong about you too. Guess it's never too late to change." "Ah." Emily smiled warmly. "It's never too late." The power of love and resilience. As the sun set over Maple Ridge, casting a golden glow over the town that had once been a place of judgment and hardship, Emily and James stood hand in hand, their hearts full of gratitude. They had faced scorn, adversity, and doubt, but their love had been a beacon of hope, guiding them through every storm. "You know," Emily said softly, "if I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't change a thing." James squeezed her hand. "Neither would I." Their journey was far from over, but they knew one thing for certain. Their love had not only changed their lives, but had also left an indelible mark on a town that now knew the true meaning of resilience and acceptance. The road to new horizons. The years rolled by, bringing with them triumphs and challenges that further tested Emily and James's unbreakable bond. They had come a long way from being the town's outcasts to becoming symbols of resilience and hope. Their journey, however, was far from over. A new challenge arises. One brisk morning, James sat at the kitchen table, flipping through a stack of letters. Emily, dressed in a cozy sweater, set down 2 steaming mugs of coffee and noticed the crease in James's brow. "What's wrong?" she asked, concern flickering in her voice. James sighed, tapping one of the envelopes. "It's from the gallery. They want me to relocate to the city permanently." Emily's heart skipped a beat. The city represented endless opportunities, but it also meant leaving behind the town they had fought so hard to call home. Maple Ridge had shaped them, for better or worse. "What do you think?" Emily asked carefully. James leaned back, his eyes thoughtful. "It's tempting. I could connect with more artists, learn, grow. But I don't want to make this decision without you." Emily smiled softly. "We've always faced everything together, James. This will be no different." Still, the decision weighed heavily on both of them. The city promised growth and success, but their hearts were tethered to Maple Ridge, where they had planted roots and built a community of support. Seeking guidance, later that day, Emily decided to visit her father. The once imposing William Carter had mellowed with time, his relationship with his daughter and son-in-law transformed by understanding and respect. She found him in his study, reading by the large bay window. The scent of aged leather and cedar filled the room. "Dad," Emily began, sitting across from him, "James has been offered an opportunity in the city. We're thinking about moving." William set down his book, his expression contemplative. "That's a big decision. What's holding you back?" "Maple Ridge is our home. We've built so much here. But the city could be a fresh start, a chance to grow even more." William nodded thoughtfully. "You know, I spent most of my life thinking success was about staying where you're comfortable and maintaining appearances. But watching you and James, I've learned that real success comes from following your heart, no matter where it takes you." Emily's throat tightened. Her father's wisdom was hard-earned, and she cherished every word. "Thanks, Dad," she whispered. "Just promise me one thing," William said, his voice softening. "Wherever you go, don't forget where you came from." The decision made. That evening, Emily and James sat on the porch, the cool breeze rustling the leaves. "I spoke to Dad today," Emily said, breaking the comfortable silence. James raised an eyebrow. "What did he say?" "That success isn't about staying where you're comfortable. It's about following your heart." James smiled. "Wise man." Emily took his hand. "Let's do it, James. Let's go to the city." His eyes lit up with excitement. "Are you sure?" "As long as we're together, I'm sure of anything." A bittersweet farewell. The news of their impending move spread through Maple Ridge, stirring mixed reactions. Friends and supporters gathered for a farewell party at the town hall, where laughter mingled with tears. Rosie from the diner gave Emily a tight hug. "You're going to do amazing things, sweetheart. Just don't forget us little folks." "Never," Emily promised, her voice thick with emotion. James stood by his art display, shaking hands with townsfolk who had once doubted him but now admired his success. Even Mrs. Whittaker made an appearance, offering a curt but genuine farewell. "You proved us all wrong," she admitted grudgingly. James chuckled. "Glad I could surprise you." As the evening wound down, Emily and James stood on the steps of the town hall, looking out at the faces that had been part of their journey. "Thank you for believing in us," Emily said, her voice steady despite the lump in her throat. "We'll carry Maple Ridge with us wherever we go." A new beginning. Their move to the city was both exhilarating and daunting. The bustling streets, towering skyscrapers, and endless energy were a stark contrast to the quiet charm of Maple Ridge. James's career soared to new heights. His work was featured in international exhibitions, and his name became synonymous with powerful, thought-provoking art. Emily, too, found her calling, launching a nonprofit organization that provided art education to underprivileged communities. Her experiences in Maple Ridge had shown her the transformative power of creativity, and she was determined to share that gift with others. Despite their busy schedules, Emily and James never lost sight of what mattered most: their love and the dreams they had built together. Coming full circle. Years later, they'd returned to Maple Ridge for the town's annual Fall Festival, now a grand event that attracted visitors from far and wide. James was the guest of honor, his artwork displayed prominently in the town hall. As they walked through the familiar streets, hand in hand, memories flooded back. The judgment, the struggles, the triumphs. It had all led to this moment. "You know," James said with a smile, "I never thought we'd be back here like this." Emily squeezed his hand. Life has a funny way of coming full circle. The townsfolk greeted them warmly, their admiration genuine. Even Mrs. Whittaker, now well into her 70s, offered a smile. "You two changed this town," she said. Emily smiled. "It changed us too." As the festival buzzed around them, James and Emily stood at the heart of it all. Their journey a testament to love, resilience, and the power of never giving up. They had faced the world together and emerged stronger, proving that sometimes the greatest triumphs come from following your heart, no matter where it leads. Trials, triumphs, and the test of time. The city had opened new doors for Emily and James, but life had a way of throwing unexpected challenges, even after dreams had seemingly come true. They stood hand in hand at the pinnacle of success, yet they knew that life's journey was never a straight line. The weight of success. James's artistic fame had grown exponentially, and with it came pressures he had never imagined. He was now commissioned by prestigious clients, flown to different countries for gallery openings, and constantly in demand for interviews. The success was exhilarating but exhausting. Late one night, James sat in his studio, staring at a blank canvas. His brushes were lined up neatly, but he couldn't bring himself to pick one up. The once unstoppable flow of creativity. Inspired by Rosie's words, Emily organized a community art exhibition, showcasing work from the children and teens who had benefited from her nonprofit's programs. She invited philanthropists, city officials, and local businesses, hoping to reignite interest in the organization's mission. The night of the exhibition, the gallery buzzed with energy. Vibrant paintings lined the walls, each piece telling a story of hope, resilience, and creativity. As Emily moved through the crowd, she overheard a wealthy donor speaking with one of the young artists. "This is incredible," the donor said, clearly impressed. "I had no idea kids in this community had such talent. They just needed someone to believe in them," Emily said, stepping forward. The donor smiled. "I think I'd like to support your organization." Emily's heart soared. It was a turning point, one that would ensure the continuation of the work she was so passionate about. James finds his muse again. Meanwhile, James found his way back to his art through unexpected inspiration. One afternoon, he visited a park near their home and watched as children played, their laughter ringing through the air. A young boy with curly hair reminded him of a time when he had dreamed fearlessly, unburdened by expectations. He returned to his studio with renewed purpose. Instead of focusing on what the world wanted to see, he painted what was in his heart. The result was a series of bold, unapologetic pieces that captured the raw beauty of everyday life. When the collection was unveiled at a major gallery, it was met with critical acclaim. Reviewers hailed it as his most authentic work yet. "You did it," Emily said proudly as they stood together at the exhibition. "No, we did it," James corrected, kissing her temple. Reconnecting with Maple Ridge. Despite their success, Emily and James never forgot where they came from. They frequently returned to Maple Ridge, not just for nostalgic visits, but to give back to the community that had shaped them. They funded scholarships for aspiring artists, renovated the old town hall into a cultural center, and continued hosting workshops. One sunny afternoon, as they strolled through the town square, they were greeted by familiar faces. "You two really changed this place," Rosie said, joining them with a warm smile. "We just gave it a nudge," Emily said modestly. Rosie chuckled. A nudge that turned into a revolution. A love that stood the test of time. As the years passed, Emily and James's love only deepened. They had weathered storms, celebrated victories, and built a legacy that would endure long after they were gone. One quiet evening, they sat on their porch, watching the sun set over the horizon. The world had changed, but their hearts remained the same. "Do you ever think about how far we've come?" Emily asked softly. James nodded. "Every day. And I'm grateful for every moment, especially the tough ones. They made us who we are." Emily smiled, her heart full. "I wouldn't trade any of it." Their journey was a testament to the power of love, resilience, and the belief that dreams, when nurtured with courage, could defy even the harshest odds. A legacy beyond time. The city lights shimmered through the window of their home as Emily and James stood side by side, looking out over the skyline that had become a canvas for their dreams. The world had changed around them, but the essence of who they were remained unshaken. Their journey had not only redefined their lives, but had left an indelible mark on countless others. The grand celebration. The anniversary of their nonprofit's founding was fast approaching, and Emily had planned an event that would celebrate a decade of transformative work. The gala was to be held at the Grand Metropolitan Art Hall, a venue that symbolized both the city's cultural heartbeat and their journey from struggle to triumph. James had contributed his latest masterpiece to be auctioned for the nonprofit. The painting, titled Resilience in Bloom, depicted a vibrant field of wildflowers breaking through cracks in a barren landscape, a metaphor for the beauty that emerged from adversity. On the night of the gala, the hall was adorned with elegant floral arrangements and shimmering lights. Guests from all walks of life filled the space: philanthropists, city officials, artists, and most importantly, the young people whose lives had been forever changed by Emily and James's efforts. As Emily took the stage, the room hushed. "Tonight, we celebrate not just the work we've done, but the countless stories of resilience and hope that have blossomed because of it," she began, her voice steady and heartfelt. "James and I started this journey with a simple belief that art has the power to heal, to inspire, and to bring people together. And tonight, seeing all of you here, I know that belief was never misplaced." The crowd erupted into applause, their admiration palpable. An unexpected reunion. As the evening progressed, Emily and James mingled with guests, exchanging stories and laughter. Suddenly, Emily spotted a familiar face in the crowd. Mrs. Whittaker, now frail but radiant with joy. "Mrs. Whittaker," Emily exclaimed, embracing the older woman. "I can't believe you made it." Mrs. Whittaker chuckled. "I wouldn't miss this for the world, dear. You and James proved me wrong in the best way possible." James joined them, his smile warm. "It's good to see you, Mrs. Whittaker. You two have done something remarkable," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "And I'm proud to have witnessed it." A heartfelt surprise. As the night drew to a close, William Carter, now well into his 70s, approached the stage. His once stern demeanor had softened over the years, and his eyes held a warmth that hadn't always been there. "May I have a moment?" he asked, taking the microphone. The room fell silent as William cleared his throat. "I've made many mistakes in my life, but none greater than doubting my daughter and the man she chose to build a life with." His voice wavered slightly. "Emily and James have shown me what true strength looks like. Their love, their determination, and their compassion have not only changed my life, but have also transformed this community." Tears glistened in Emily's eyes as she held James's hand tightly. "I couldn't be prouder of the legacy they've built," William continued, "and I'm honored to be here tonight to celebrate their journey." The room erupted into applause, the sound resonating with the triumph of love, forgiveness, and growth. A return to Maple Ridge. Despite their thriving lives in the city, Emily and James never forgot their roots. One summer, they decided to spend a few months in Maple Ridge, reconnecting with the town that had shaped their journey. The cultural center they had funded was now a bustling hub of creativity, filled with artists, musicians, and dreamers. "You've left quite a legacy here," Rosie said as they toured the center. James smiled. "It was always about giving back." Emily nodded. "And showing people that dreams can grow even in the unlikeliest places. Teaching the next generation." One afternoon, James led a painting workshop for a group of young artists. Among them was a boy named Malik, whose talent reminded James of himself at that age. "You have a gift, Malik," James said, watching as the boy blended colors with precision. Malik looked up, his eyes shining. "You really think so, Mr. Walker?" "I know so," James said firmly. "Keep painting, no matter what anyone says." Emily, watching from the doorway, felt a surge of pride. They were not just building their own legacy. They were inspiring the next generation to dream fearlessly. A love eternal. As the sun dipped below the horizon one evening, casting a golden glow over the fields surrounding Maple Ridge, Emily and James sat on the porch of their old home. "We've come full circle, haven't we?" Emily mused. James nodded, his eyes filled with warmth. "We have, and I wouldn't change a single moment." Their love had weathered storms, celebrated victories, and built a legacy that would endure long after they were gone. "You know," Emily said softly, "if I had to do it all over again, I'd still choose you." James's voice was tender. "And I'd choose you, every time." As they sat together, the world around them quiet and peaceful, they knew one thing for certain. Their love had not only changed their lives, but had also left an indelible mark on countless others. Their journey was a testament to the power of love, resilience, and the courage to defy expectations. And though time would pass, their story would live on, inspiring generations to come.